I hate myself for still reading this. Where the fridge tart does Cinderella come in? Possibly the worst book I've ever read. I now feel like I need to get the audiobook and try this. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and hi if you're new here, I'm Jade, and today I thought we could look at some bad reviews of my favorite books. I'll be honest with you, I expect to get offended, but hopefully in a lot of cases I'll see where people are coming from and, at least understand even if they hurt my feelings. I have had a crazy week, so this just seemed like a good fun idea to sort of just round it out for me and just make it a little bit more lighthearted and fun. So I have a free couple of hours and I was like, why not just get cozy, have a nice cup of tea. That being said, I may be British, I don't really like tea, but I feel ginger tea is good for me. And then we could just read it through some Goodreads reviews and, hopefully be amused, offended, whatever it brings. I can honestly say I never really look at reviews on Goodreads that much at all. Sometimes I will after I've finished a book, like at other good ones, just to see other people's opinions and like if they like similar things to me. But generally I don't actually look that much at all. So I thought I would pick a few favorites and we could go through. I'll probably just like have a look on my Goodreads and pick some of maybe my 5-star ratings from last year or something like that to pick my favorites, because I have so many books that I love that we'd be here forever if I was just randomly deciding. But we must start out with some Teaspiration. Teaspiration is the quote on my tea bag. I like to share these usually on my Instagram, but today, as I'm filming while having my tea, it says, "Be kind to others, but always be compassionate to yourself." Truth. Do that. Do that. So without further ado, let's find a book to look at those 1-star reviews. Before we begin, I will try not to put any spoilers of books. So if there's parts in the reviews that have spoilers, I'll try and skip those. But yeah, I just want to see what we get. So I'm just going to scroll back through my reads. And as I said, I'm not going to include this year's yet, I don't think. I think I'd rather focus it on last year's 5 stars because I feel like there's going to be plenty to pick from and we can see, how offended I am. Actually, one, I haven't even quite reached it. I reached the sequel, but I know a good one to look up will be Belladonna because I adored that whole entire series. So Belladonna by Adalyn was one of my favorite reads from last year. It's a bit of a mix of genres, which is why it makes it so magical. And it scores 3.94 as its rating on Goodreads, which I feel is pretty good. I feel like anything over 4 on Goodreads tends to mean it's a really good book. I think 3.94 is a little harsh on this one, honestly, but it's not a bad rating by any means. I mean, when I look at percentage of ratings, 4-star is definitely the highest. 1-star, there is thankfully hardly any as a percentage goes. So I'm happy with that, but I mean, there are 1-star ratings somehow. I've just picked the first 1-star review and let's read. I'll cut anything if it's a spoiler, like I said. Sincerely, no. Anyone who says this is good is straight up lying. This book single-handedly cured my "surely if the cover is drop dead gorgeous, it can't be that bad" delusion. Had I read this as a physical book instead of an ebook, I would have ran out of post-it notes tabbing all the red flags. Let's not beat around the bush. This book is an old, ancient, immortal being, Death, grooming a young girl until she's legal and then gets with her. I mean, I guess she's not wrong, but I mean about the grooming thing, but it's a fantasy book set years ago, it's of the time. This whole novel is so predatory and creepy considering Death meets our main character, Signa, as a 2-month-old baby. I repeat, a 2-month-old infant. He's fascinated by her and visits her throughout her childhood. There's this incredibly messed up power dynamic between them. The MC keeps telling him to stay away, but he doesn't. He is always described in a menacing way, looming and towering over the MC. Read these following quotes knowing that this is a grown man talking to a barely legal, naive, orphaned girl who he met when she was an actual infant and watched her growing up and then ends up as her love interest. I'm not going to read the quotes because obviously that will spoil the book a little bit. Okay, I just realized this review is like a whole novel in itself, so I'm just going to pick out some interesting lines and see if we agree, disagree. If you're only intrigued by the enemies to lovers period piece aspect of this book, do yourself a favor and just stick with Pride and Prejudice. I mean, I adore Pride and Prejudice, so definitely read that too. But I mean, most of the girls in Pride and Prejudice, when they're getting, matched with someone or in that era, were also very young. Just saying. So I feel like you can't really criticize a period piece book for that. here, but not there. The writing is bad. There's so many things that just make no sense at all and had me question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark while reading. She's literally like broken down an analysis of each character, so I will give her her dedication to writing this bad review. Okay, this bit's funny. So she says, I know some authors use certain words more than others, but there's a line and this book crossed it. Signa eats scones the entire time. Scones get more screen time than the supposed murder mystery in this book. 27. She eats 27 scones in this book. Yes, this is petty, and yes, I kept a scone tally. In any given scene, there's a scone present. Death feeds her scones. Death throws scones at her. Death chokes her with scones. I think this is just about the most ridiculous scene I've ever read. This has to be a kink. I could honestly say that despite it apparently it being in there 27 times, like I do remember scones being in there, but I didn't actually notice the excessive thing with scones, but I just kind of assumed it's the character's favorite thing. And you know, yeah, I didn't notice it. I'm not gonna lie. And that review has 893 likes. I'm sorry, this is just so funny to me. I just want to say that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I am not saying that she shouldn't have written this. These are her own feelings. They are very valid. And I do see where she's coming from for a lot of it, but I do think the Pride and Prejudice thing is a little bit hypocritical, I'm not going to lie. And it is quite full of attitude rather than just an analysis of the book. But I like that. I like it. Bring your personal side and opinion into this. It's good fun. This was the laughter I needed this week and just entertainment I needed. So thank you if you're watching and being on this journey with me, because yeah, this is making my week, honestly. So let's find another review for this one. Okay, this is really short, but it's already entertaining me. I was stuck at 80% for months, and when I tell you I forced myself to finish it, I mean it. Even then, I mostly skimmed it. To the person that recommended me this, I hope both sides of your pillow are hot at night. Oh, tonight, not at night. Can you imagine that you just like have this much hatred for someone that recommends you a book that you don't like? Honestly, some people are bizarre. And I know they're probably just sort of joking, but it's just crazy to me. I just can't imagine writing anything like this on the internet. I'm not gonna lie. Let's do 3 reviews of each book I pick to give everyone a fair chance. And I'm just gonna kind of pick at random reviews off here, just like scroll and pick something. Here's one that's not too long. I don't want too many that are like a book like the first one, or we'll be here till next Christmas. I think everyone who liked this book has a daddy issue. I get it. A lot of people just say that if you're into something a little bit off the wall, that you have daddy issues. Their opinion. Whatever. Anyway, I started this book as audio the last 2 weeks of school because I needed something not that complicated to listen to while correcting papers. To tell you the jump scare I had every time Signa, via narrator, shouts or screams, said with anger, was a true dose wake up. Better than caffeine. I now feel like I need to get the audiobook and try this. Now let me get this straight. Death, the Reaper of Souls, the Walker of Night, the Shadow King, takes souls but does not know who murdered them and needs a 19-year-old to solve the murder mystery and restore balance. Sounds legit. Well, one book was enough. I mean, they didn't really write a lot, did they? Yeah. The fact that, you know, she's just told us the FMC here is 19. So she's not underage. Hence, I don't really get the whole, like, prey thing. I mean, I get that Death's old and he knew her as a baby, but you know what? This comes into play in so many fantasy novels. I mean, it's in Twilight with, you know, the whole kind of like imprint thing with Jacob and Renesmee, and then, you know, most fae in any book is like years old. So I don't know. I just think that's a funny criticism for this one, honestly. And it's fine if people aren't comfortable with it, but I just don't see the point in judging readers on it, saying like, you've got daddy issues or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, I did say 3 reviews, but this one, bad. Okay, this might be an interesting one, which is Conform by Ariel Sullivan. This was one of my favorite books from last year, and I read it literally as soon as it came out. So I was definitely within the first readers other than the ARC readers. I applied for an ARC for this one and I didn't get it, and I'm a bit sad, I'm not gonna lie, because I just knew I was gonna love it. I'm pretty sure this was Ariel Sullivan's debut novel, and honestly for a debut it is so good. So please, whatever these 1-star reviews say, don't trust them. Go and read this because I love it. It's like a dystopian romance, and I love a bit of dystopian novels, and I just feel like this one's gonna be good to look at just because it's newish. It was a debut. Like, I feel like we could get some interesting things said here. It's actually scored 4.09 on Goodreads, so it's made it over the 4-star mark, which it definitely deserves. And again, hardly any 1-star reviews as a percentage, but there are some. I was just scrolling down and the first one I saw was possibly the worst book I've ever read. Well, okay, maybe. I find that hard to believe. Like, there are a lot worse books. Like, even if you don't love this book like me, there are a lot worse books. Even if you don't love this book like me, if you hate this over certain books that exist out there, then I just don't have any respect. Okay, the next one I've clicked is, again, like a whole entire essay about this book. So maybe let's not read it all, but I'm gonna start and just see where the vibes are going. There is a lot about Conform that should be eerie and jarring. Chips inserted into our wrists so the government can know exactly what we're feeling or eating or where we are. Women's use as a vessel for humanity, a la the oft alluded to The Handmaid's Tale. Sullivan attempts to blend many dystopian tropes and themes in this novel with some of her own unique spins, but I found that the narrative, in attempting to hold too much, fell apart and short. I mean, I don't agree, but I mean, it's fair. She's being honest, you know, with her opinion. I can respect anyone and their opinion if they're honest. I do feel like I'm a slightly more generous rater. So honestly, for a book to get 1 star for me, I probably need it to just be like the worst written thing in the world that makes no sense. But, you know, the world building is what snagged my attention first, and the technology specifically threw me for a loop. We're introduced to the Mind, monitoring intelligence nanochip device, which is inserted into everyone's left wrist at birth and acts as a two-way street between an individual and the government, sharing biological data and other information as they move through the world. We're also then introduced, obliquely, to this pod system where someone can take a pod up to the sky, which sounds like a feat of engineering to me, even if it's not explained much further than that. I mean, I don't feel like in a dystopian world or like in a fantasy novel or anything like that, I don't feel that everything does need to be fully explained, because this is something, you know, that's meant to be in the future. It's not meant to be something we can comprehend right now. So, okay, I get a lay of the land from there as to how technology has developed. When Adalyn goes up to the clouds to become presentable for her first meeting with a potential mate, and the starlings pull out those good handy-dandy wax strips, my jaw dropped. In this technologically advanced world, they're removing her body hair with wax strips, and they've given her a coloured contact that burns in her eye for days on end. It felt strange to me that in a world that is obsessed with genetic makeup and looks, I will mention soon, it doesn't seem like they're more concerned with what's on the inside than the outside, that the technology for making people beautiful and keeping people beautiful, whatever that means, is as developed as you'd think it would be. And there wasn't any commentary either way on how women have to work harder to keep their bodies beautiful. Again, whatever that means, because why would there be? I mean, I get what they're saying. It's a very technologically advanced world. It is, because like I said, it's dystopian, it's set in the future. But I also don't think it's unimaginable that some of the beauty stuff that we have now is still used. And I mean, wax strips have their effectiveness, and I don't know, I just don't think too harsh on that. It's just what they did in the book. I mean, maybe I'm not analysing it enough as I'm reading, I don't know, but I just didn't mind that they used wax strips on someone. Okay, she writes a lot about the characters, which I'm not gonna read too much because, again, I don't want this to like be a complete spoiler thing. One thing she does say is, another thing I refuse to accept are the minor and major designations for the defected. Another reviewer commented on how using minor as shorthand comes across as super awkward in dialogue situations, which I fully agree with, but my conflict runs deeper. For one thing, we never learn what puts a person into either camp. All we know are that both... Okay, sorry. My camera just shut off randomly and I was like, what is wrong with it? I troubleshooted it, and apparently it's a setting in the camera to do with the overheating. Apparently it's common with this camera, which is kind of annoying with how much it cost. However, I've changed the settings. Hopefully it continues recording. Okay, so as I was saying, they have spoken quite a lot about characters and things that I think could be spoilers for some people. So I'm just going to skip to like bits that I think are kind of relevant. And they put, another thing I refuse to accept are the minor and major designations for the defected. Another reviewer commented on how using minor as shorthand comes across as super awkward in dialogue situations, which I fully agree with, but my conflict runs deeper. For one thing, we never learn what puts a person to either camp. All we know are that both camps exist, and Adalyn is in minor, with her defect being her heterochromia. Supposedly, major defects have worse defects, but it's never defined what that would be. So as a casual everyday reader, I have to imagine that minor defects are people who have vision, skin, physical surface level defects, while major defects have other worse genetic conditions, ? So basically, they talk a lot more. They're annoyed that you don't find out really what it is to be defective. I must say, I don't feel like I needed that. This is book 1 in a series, and we're looking from, the perspective of our main character, and we learn they're quite locked in where they're placed. So if they're classed as defective, they're quite locked in where they are. So I don't think she's necessarily gonna fully know herself actually about all of this. So for me, it wasn't really an issue. I kind of like that it still has a kind of mystery around that throughout the novel, but I accept it. I think sometimes it is frustrating to read a book and want to know more about something that you just don't get. And I do understand that. And also I know a lot of people do have an issue with them being called minors, because it's like, I think there's a line in the book or something. It's like, have you ever slept with a minor? Obviously that sounds problematic, but like in the context of the book, it really doesn't mean anything. It means, have you slept with someone who's a minor defective? It could have been phrased better, yes, but am I going to judge a whole book on one line? No. Honestly, she just has quite a lot of complaints about the book. Like, I could go on, but I don't think anything's too great. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say that she edited to add something at the end saying, I don't think this one's positioning as the first book in a trilogy of trilogies. So that is how it is in this whole world, which I think is kind of interesting. Is enough to excuse shoddy world building. If you want people to get invested in this world and these characters in order to read 9 books, the world has to be conceptualized and built and immersive. See, I think for me it was. I think I personally got enough where I've still got a bit of mystery and I want to read on and kind of learn more from the other books about this whole entire world. And I recently read the first book in the next trilogy, which is like the prequel trilogy, and that adds a bit of different context. And I personally don't need it to be too descriptive. I quite like using my imagination and what I'm thinking, and if it turns out that I'm wrong as things develop, I'm fine with that. Okay, I've chosen another one at random. This one's not too long. On the positive, the writing was competent, nothing wrong with it, whereas I've been burned by some dystopian or fantasy romance that could barely form coherent sentences. I agree, the writing's good. Actually, the last review I read, she did comment and say the writing was terrible, and that she didn't think it used enough conjunctions and things like that, but I didn't notice. Unfortunately, the story was extremely predictable and repetitive. You don't really learn anything about anyone's beliefs, motivations, how they operate, and there's no specifics given to characterize entire groups of people, much less the characters themselves. The majority is her getting dressed and then attending dinners, and there's an info dump at the end. But I think it's supposed to be political intrigue, but again, it's just very little detail given. It feels like only a vague idea of a book. I guess in some ways she has a similar complaint to the last one, that it is a little on the vague side. For me, it really did build enough that I was still interested, and honestly, I could really picture the world. When I was reading this book, I actually had a really strong visualization of just how I see everything, and I just don't feel like I needed more right now, but I do get it. I do, because I do quite enjoy a lot of world building. Like When the Moon Hatched is a favorite of mine, and I know a lot of people said it just took ages with the world building and it was too much for them. Personally, I still really enjoyed that, but I don't need it. I feel like this had enough for me. Honestly, it is up there with my top books of the year, so yeah, go read that one. Let's swap books now, I don't want to bore you. After all this chatting, I'm so thirsty, but I've almost finished my tea. So you know what, let's go for a very popular book that I rated 5 stars last year. So a bit of a contradiction to the last one, which I feel is becoming popular, but I feel like wasn't super known. So let's just go for a very viral book. Let's go for Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm picking Throne of Glass specifically. I'm actually currently, at the time of filming this, reading through Kingdom of Ash. So I am about to finish the series. I started it right at the beginning of last year, and I kind of put off this last book, Kingdom of Ash, because I just didn't really want it to end. I did give Throne of Glass a 5-star rating. I've got to say, as I've got into the series, there are probably books that I enjoyed a little bit more. But I think as opening books go and like getting used to characters and setting up for a long series, it is a 5-star setup for me. Throne of Glass is rated a 4.19 on Goodreads, so I mean, a good rating, which I expected. It's a super popular series. I thought this would be a good one to talk about as well, because I feel like a lot of you have probably read this. Again, hardly any 1-star ratings as percentages go, and 5-star is the most common one for this book. I think the other books have both had 4-star as the main one, but 5-star is winning on the reviews and ratings on this book. I'm not gonna lie, I just saw like the first line of the first 1-star review and I just had to click on it. Are you kidding me? What the hell is this? Shh. How do you screw up your story quite so badly after starting from an incredible premise involving the most notorious assassin in the land, now a slave, being offered the chance to win back her freedom, sort of, in the To the Death tournament, fighting the most gifted thieves and assassins in the land? She says a lot about what happens in the book, and then says, I mean, you really have to be talented to go from all of that exciting sounding awesomeness to, well, Throne of Glass. After reading the Q&A included in the back of my book, though, it all started to make sense, and I wish I'd known before buying this stupid book. There's a lot of swear words in here, I'm not saying them on camera. That it's inspired by Disney's Cinderella, of all things. I know what you're thinking. Where the fridge tart does Cinderella come in? Isn't this story about like a tough as nails former assassin, now slave, competing for her life in like the most badass tournament ever? Well, actually no. And I'm happy to spend the next few hours of my life quoting this dumb book if it means at least one person might decide not to waste their money on it. No need to thank me. I just love how passionate people get about their hatred for these books. It's incredible. I don't know, maybe I'm just too nice, but like I feel like I always try to find something good to say about every book, even if I don't like it, because I feel like most books, if they get published, there is something positive, even if I don't overall like the book. And honestly, for a book like this, especially that is generally rated really well, I just feel like people sometimes write these to make people angry and get reactions. I mean, it's fair if people don't like a book, but I don't know, I'm just like, these are so passionately negative that I just can't imagine wasting my energy on being so negative. I don't know. But good on them. It makes for good reading. Oh my God. Okay, so she does a lot of like quotes and an analysis of quotes, which I'm not obviously going to go through on camera and spoil it, but she says, oh, one more thing. Their names. How the heck do you pronounce kale? Kale? Like the cabbage? And Caltaine? Rompier has to be one of the most stupid names I've ever come across. It makes me think of frolicking unicorns. Oh my gosh. This is funny. This is funny. I will say that as someone who's never really read negative reviews before, this is very entertaining, and I really full on respect the amount of effort and energy people have put into these reviews for some of them. Obviously not the ones that just say like bad, but yeah, I love it. And then she complains a lot about names in the book, but I mean, I get it. They're slightly odd names, but I mean, it's meant to be a fantasy world, and she doesn't want just like some common names that are everywhere. And I think, you know, if you research these names, they exist somewhere in history. It's just, you know, they're not what we use today. And what is even the point of the glass castle, or the non-existent throne of glass that the book's apparently named after? Thinly veiled Cinderella references. If you ask me, the author should have gone for Cinderella in Candy Floss Land, because you certainly don't get much more than that. Honestly, some of these reviews are just really creative. I like it. I'm here for it, okay? Like, I am here for it. And then sort of going to the end of the review, just to get a summary. Ugh, terrible, terrible, horrendous, nonsensical, stupid, pointless, fluffy, pathetic, ridiculous. Need I say more? Really? Need I? And sorry, my cat just wants to show you his butt now. Kind of fitting, though, for what she was thinking. Throne of Glass tries to emulate Poison Study and fails spectacularly. Save yourself the torture and go straight for Poison Study. If you've already read Poison Study, read it again. Or try Graceling. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Of course, I've never heard of Poison Study. Maybe I should give that a read and see what she means. But yeah, I don't know. This is entertaining. Obviously, I disagree, but I do respect that everyone has their own opinions, and she obviously didn't like the book, so fine. I randomly clicked on another one, and this one sounds interesting. If this garbage can somehow miraculously get published, then I have hope the smut I wrote 3 years ago can too. This book is effing horrible. I wanted some badassery, but instead I got a love triangle and annoying characters who I just wish died. I mean, okay. I was so incredibly bored for the first 130 pages of this book, and then I skimmed so much that I made it to page 295 in 2 minutes. Well, then you didn't read it? Did you? Did you? I mean, good on you if you can read 165 pages in 2 minutes, because I certainly couldn't. Then I forced myself to suffer and actually read, and I found it somewhat alright. So she found it somewhat alright now, but she rated it 1 star. And didn't even read the other part, so like, how do you even know where you are in the book? But this book was still bad. I really don't get why people like this, but whatever, my guy. Each to their own. Also, don't come at me saying I didn't read the right book or your opinion is wrong. Rude word. Do yourself a favor and leave, and don't annoy me with comments like that. Everyone has a right to express their opinions however they want. Thanks and good night. I mean, she's definitely got some strong opinions here, but she's right. You know, everyone is allowed their own opinion. I mean, I do agree with her, but, you know, it's a bit aggressive. I want my SJM virginity taken in the most painful way possible. I haven't saved myself for this long just to be disappointed. Seriously. I'm so excited to read the badly written smut and growls and purrs and talons. Or is that in her other series? Okay. Fair enough. And another random one I've clicked on. Many things bugged me about this book. Many. But the one thing I consider an unforgivable offense is that it was extremely boring. This was me during the whole of Throne of Glass. This is not interesting. Why am I reading this? I hate myself for still reading this. I hate everyone in this book. And on and on. Needless to say, not one of these states was a pleasant experience. I was debating how many stars I should give this book. 1 or 2. But seriously, who cares? It's not a good book for me. I mean, if you're bored, you're bored. I struggle with that sometimes. And sometimes they are books that, you know, a lot of people seem to like. And I'm bored. So I get it. If a book bores you, it bores you. I suppose that's valid. I wasn't going to do any more, and I'm not really, but I just noticed one that says I DNF'd at 45%. And I've got to say that I think it's really harsh to go in and rate a book 1 star when you DNF it, because I have read so many books where the second half is like amazing when the beginning's been terrible. And I just think that's really harsh because you don't get the overall story or know where it's going. So I don't know. If I DNF, which I don't ever really do, and I should, but I don't. But if I DNF, I'm not going to rate it. Like, I didn't actually read it, right? I didn't finish it. I know that's probably a controversial opinion and everyone can have their own opinion on that, but that's my opinion. Anyone who says they DNF'd a book and rates it 1 star, I just think I'm not going to trust their review. I honestly don't know how long this video is going to be by the time I edit it. I feel like I've spoken quite a lot, but this has just been really fun and I really want to do loads more books. So maybe we will turn this into a little bit of a series where I do maybe 1 every few months or something like that, because I am super enjoying this. So let me know if you're enjoying it. And if you hate it, let me know as well. And then I guess I can consider not doing it. But honestly, I just find them fun. I'm here for fun, okay? I'm not here to please everyone. I'm just here to have fun and talk about books. So let's choose one more now that Tao's got on my lap and is all nice and cozy and making me very hot on this hot day. I'm just scrolling through everything I read last year. I was like, do I go for another popular book or do I go for something a bit different? And you know what? I'm going to go for Project Hail Mary. Obviously very topical right now with the movie coming out and everything. I loved the book, and I'm not really a typical sci-fi reader, though I feel like I'm slightly getting interested in it. But it is also one of my in-person book club's choices this month. And someone messaged in the chat today actually and said, this is way too technical. This is really boring. Like, I'm going to have to go see the movie to know what this is about. And I know what they mean, but I feel like someone who sometimes does struggle with sci-fi and things. I didn't find it too technical and I found it kind of fun. So I don't know. You know, I do feel like a lot of people are going to have that opinion though. So I feel like this is an interesting one to look into, especially because it's a bit of a different genre from the other books that I've already spoken about. So Project Hail Mary gets 4.51 on its rating. So it is the highest rated out of the books that we've looked at today. So I'm definitely very intrigued to see what people have said. Percentage-wise, 5-star is up there. This is a really high percentage of 5-star ratings. It's got quite a few 4 stars. 3 stars, there isn't that many. 2 stars, hardly any. 1 star, it looks like non-existent. But obviously, there are a lot of ratings on this book. So just because the bar looks really tiny, there are still gonna be a few to go through, I'm sure. Okay, this review just stood out to me, and I like this. I respect this. It's very short, but this is what it says. Every so often, I am lucky enough to come across something that reminds me of how beautiful the diversity of the human experience is. For example, some people love this book. I like that. That's clever. And it's fair, right? They made a good observation. We do experience things different. We all like different things. And I mean, the world would be boring if we didn't. So I respect this review. I mean, I would like to know a bit more why they didn't like it, but I think it's clever. I like this as a sort of fast little review to look at. Okay, I've clicked on another random one. A dude is left alone in deep space after losing his crewmates, but the dude is a scientist and manages to find a smart solution to every problem he encounters in such an unfriendly environment. You say this sounds like The Martian. Nope, this is the new novel by Andy Weir, and it's a bad book, badly written. It's a bad book because the plot is so blatantly implausible to be silly. The author must think that stuffing every page with loads of scientific data and explanations makes a story plausible. Except it does not. I would like to point out that it's science fiction. It's not meant to be realistic. It's, not meant to be plausible. I think, when you read something that's sci-fi, or even I was saying earlier with Conform and knowing how all the technology works there, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit when you are reading books. I feel like that in most genres, there are always going to be slight exaggerated versions of reality. However, Artemis 2 is actually, the day I'm filming this, is the day it's going to land back on Earth. And, that's quite incredible. And there are certain things, especially like live streaming from a rocket in space, I wouldn't have comprehended this when I was a child, Everyone always has to swear. The continued quirkiness of the narrating voice after a while started getting to me. And in the long run, it detracted from the seriousness of the story. It's like one long witty joke. In a movie, such an effect would be nicely counterbalanced by breathtaking deep space images, like in The Martian. In a book, this is all you get, and the result is annoying. The author is very keen to let us know he's done his research homework, so large parts of the book read like Lancet articles. I mean, I guess that's the whole slightly too detailed, information thing that the person in my book club was saying. Character development is a most common deficit in sci-fi, but Hail Mary touches a new low. Plentiful carton board and cliches here. Do they mean cartoon board, not carton board? I probably could have gone on and on and on and on if halfway through I hadn't researched the point where my intelligence felt too insulted and told me to quit. So I guess they DNF'd, halfway, which I can't remember when. I don't want to say it in case there is a significant part in the book to me where it gets really good. And I feel like they must have got there because they talk about things being silly and jokey. But to me, that just changed the whole vibe. I loved it. And you know what? I loved the humor in this book. So I'm going to completely disagree with this person because I think it made sci-fi way more accessible for those of us that maybe do sometimes find it a little bit intimidating. I think the humor was amazing in this book, and that's what makes it stand out because it makes it that much more accessible. And maybe for those that really like really serious sci-fi and read it all the time, maybe that is a bit draining. I mean, I don't know because I'm not an expert on this genre, but I think it's what made the book for me. There is a really heartwarming element to this book. And like I said, I didn't need it to be super true and realistic. It's science fiction, fiction, the definition of fiction. And just picking another one at random, which is going to be my last review of this video, which makes me sad, but I know otherwise this is going to go on forever. And I could do this forever, honestly. I'm really enjoying myself. In the editor's note at the beginning of this book, the editor notes that they love the newest novel by Weir because it pushes the science. It also pushes credibility and sense. I have a very strong, willing suspension of disbelief, but this went too far, making it more of a fantasy about a 5-year-old than anything else. If you enjoyed the technical creativity of The Martian, you'll want to give this one a pass. Now, I have to say, I have not read The Martian. I have not even seen the movie, and I really want to. I really want to pick it up now so that I can see. And I've heard such great things about the movie, so I really feel like I should. But I don't think it pushes that far into craziness. I can't say too much without spoilers, but yes, but like I say, it's fiction, it's sci-fi, it's not science. And okay, the author's note maybe said that it has scientific stuff, but I mean, it has theories and, you know, some things I do think have some credibility. So yeah, I think let's just say with Project Hail Mary that most people's issues are the science, I guess, and I am gonna say it's fiction. That's just my answer to this, okay? But anyway, I am gonna stop there because I'm having great fun, but I also can just tell I've been talking for a long time and this is gonna take a while to edit. If you'd like me to do one of these again, please let me know. And if there's certain books you want me to look at reviews at, it doesn't always have to be my favorites, you know, it can be anything. I feel like even books I hate would be fun to just read if people agree with me or whatever. I feel like we could turn this into a really cool, interesting thing with different things. Like I could do it for your favorites or whatever. So let me know if there are any specific books you'd love just me to go through some random reviews on. But anyway, thank you for coming on this journey with me because, as I said, much needed, just a really nice light-hearted sort of break in here. And I am not being harsh to anyone who's left these reviews. You're all entitled to your own opinion, absolutely, but it was just fun to go through them. And if you would like to leave a comment today, either leave me the name of your favorite book so that I can look up some reviews, even if it's just for myself, for entertainment, or tell me what your worst thing you hate like seeing in a review is. Let me know. And I am now going to love you and leave you here, and I will see you again real soon. Bye!